Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on the program, the government stands firm on the April 26 deadline to register all SIM cards and eSIMs. DICT Secretary Ivan Uy joins us live. Telecommunications companies renew their call to extend the deadline while encouraging mobile users to register their SIMs. PLDT and Smart First Vice President Cathy tells us more. And later, groups challenge the mandatory SIM registration law before the Supreme Court. We'll get more details from Junk SIM Registration Network spokesperson Batara III. Mobile users only have less than a week to register their SIMs as the government stands pat on the April 26 deadline despite appeals. The government warns non-registration will result in the deactivation of their SIMs and eSIMs.
If you did not register by April 26, on the 27th, which the second day, or the next day, deactivated ang SIM mo. Ibig sabihin, hindi ka makaka-call, hindi ka makaka-text, at hindi ka makakagamit ng data. Ang paggamit mo ng e-wallets mo, electronic wallets mo, tulad ng GCash, Paymaya, Grab is also considered a e-wallet kasi may pera ka rin na nandoon eh. Hindi mo siya magagamit.
Telecommunications companies renewed their call for an extension, saying this would give unregistered users more time to secure the required documents, such as government-issued IDs. Let's go straight to the source of the story, Information and Communications Technology Secretary Ivan Uy. Good morning, Secretary.
Good morning, Mai.
So are you sticking to the April 26 deadline despite the appeal of telcos to extend it? And if so, why not extend it if millions of SIMs are not yet registered?
Actually, we'll be meeting with the telcos and other stakeholders on Monday in order to find out what actually the status and the current situation with respect to the registration. But so far, because most of the media outlets are reporting a percentage of the registration, which I think is quite misleading, because the more accurate count will be how many of the actual active SIM cards have actually been registered. The figure of 168 million SIM cards that have been issued, most of the telcos agree that that number is quite bloated, and a significant number of that actually are the disposable SIM cards that have been used for scams and for telemarketing. And so the actual number is actually much smaller. The estimate is about 100 million. If it's 100 million, we have so far about 78 million registrants. So we are at 78% and not at 40-something percent.
So it's not at
registration.
Not at 44.97%. That's as of April 19, right? And you're saying the figure that's initially said 168 million SIMs is bloated. It's actually misleading when the actual number is only at 100 million SIMs.
Closer to that number. Yes.
Right, but still, it's not right now. It's not anymore 44.97%, right? But still, there are millions of unregistered SIMs. So, isn't that number concerning for you?
Well, it is. However, we have noted that since we have not announced any possible extension of the registration, for the past several weeks, we have seen very encouraging numbers. We're hitting more than 1 million registration almost daily. Compared to just a few 100,000 for the past several months. So actually, I think by standing pat on the deadline, the we've actually encouraged people to take our deadline
seriously. Yes.
Yes, because I think we have a very bad habit that we all expect an extension, and because of that, people actually do not take this seriously, and they just downplay the deadline. So it's encouraging looking at the numbers. So we'll be meeting on Monday with all the different stakeholders and see what would be the next steps, considering the uptake actually in the registration.
Yes, regarding the meeting on Monday, Secretary, in terms of what number they're at by Monday,
Yes.
you think there is a possible extension?
We'll decide on that on Monday once we get all the necessary numbers that comes in. But I'd like to encourage our kababayan to just register. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody, they were all given 6 months. If they were not able to do it for a period of 6 months, getting all the necessary ID or whatever, what's going to change if we extend it for, let's say, maybe 30 more days or 60 more days? They still won't do it.
But you think 121 days for SIM registration, don't you think it's too short? Because SMART had said that in some countries, they gave their citizens 1 to 2 years to register.
Well, but the problem is that's the law.
Okay.
We don't have any discretion. The law has specified the period of time wherein we have to implement the registration. However, we have to take note that the time frame that's given to the public, I think, has been adequate. And if ever, that will be part of our consideration in assessing whether an extension will be warranted, and if so, for how long, and whether that extension would make any difference at all for our people who are, well, I'd say maybe not paying attention to all the telcos, and we've been doing a lot of public announcements already repeatedly, even ads being put out on the urgency of the registration.
Okay, Secretary, let's talk about securing valid proof for the IDs that you have to secure to be able to comply to the registration. Well, Globe is saying the government must allow alternative IDs to help those who are having a hard time registering. And Globe notes that the lack of valid IDs is the cause of the low turnout. Your reaction to that?
Well, that will be part of the discussion on Monday. If we are able to validate that that's the concern of Globe and of the other stakeholders, then if we would discuss the possibility of an extension, perhaps it would include also a liberalization of some of the ID requirements.
Well, what are the other challenges in the SIM registration process based on your assessment?
Well, what they've reported to me is in some areas that they do not have data or connectivity, but that has been resolved because most often the barangays are able to help, and some of them actually go to the municipalities. Over the past 6 months, they would, one way or another, there's no more pandemic, basically, so they actually are able to move around and go to their municipalities in order to register. In addition, the telcos are doing mobile registration. They actually go to the remote areas in the barangays in order to help registrants.
So to be clear, Secretary, are you or is the DICT open to extend the deadline depending on the meeting on Monday? And also under the SIM registration law, Article 4, it says all existing SIMs subscribers shall register the same with their respective PTEs within 180 days from the effectivity of this act. So the DITC may extend registration for a period not exceeding 120 days. Is that possible?
Well, the law allows us those leeways, and we will exercise them should the situation warrant it.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Information and Communications Technology Secretary Ivan Uy. We will be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Mai Rodriguez, still on the looming deadline of the registration of SIMs. Our source today, PLDT Smart FVP and Corporate Communications Group Head, Cathy Yang. Good morning, Cathy.
Hi, Mai. Good morning.
Well, so you reiterated your appeal on the extension of the SIM registration deadline. For you, how much more time do you need? And at what number are you at? This
120 days more, Mai, because if you do the numbers, and I'm going to get to that, we just have collated the latest numbers from April 19th, 11:59 p.m. for both Smart and TNT subscribers. We've already done 37,028,888. This is the total number of subscribers registered, and that accounts for 55.8% of the total SIM registrations for both brands here in the Philippines. So if you do the math there, we've done nearly 121 days from December 27. So we're asking for another 120 days from after April 26 to allow the 44% plus of the subscribers, prepaid and postpaid subscribers, to get to register their SIM. And you can see that we've done more than halfway. So if we get 120 more days, we'll probably do a little faster than that, because if you also look at the quantum of the daily registrations, it's really ballooned. From April 1st, before Holy Week, we've seen an increase from 200 to 300,000 per day. From December 27, we've already reached at least 450,000 per day of new registrants. So you can just see that it's ballooned. The interest is there, and people, maybe some of them are last-minuters, last-minute registrants.
We have a lot of those.
But really, the biggest challenge is in the IDs, in the valid government IDs that can be considered as part of the registration process.
Yes, you mentioned the valid IDs, and I was talking to Secretary Ivan Uy about that, and this is, he said this is going to be part of what you will be discussing in your meeting on Monday. Have you been informed of this meeting, and what other issues are you going to bring up?
Well, it's really going to be the IDs. If we can simplify it for the subscribers, that's going to be a big help, because right now we're focusing on at least 17 government-issued IDs that subscribers can use to register their SIMs. And if I can just detail that, also for the education awareness campaign that we've really done just about 120 days in informing everybody that you can use these following IDs: your passport, your SSS ID, GSIS e-card, driver's license, NBI clearance, police clearance, firearms license, PRC ID, BIR ID, voter's ID, Unified Multipurpose ID card, and persons with disabilities card. Now, the barangay ID is also okay. The government allowed that just a few weeks into the registration, because they noticed and realized that a lot of our subscribers do not have the IDs that I had mentioned, except that the barangay ID has to have a photo, photo that is clear and can be uploaded. Even a school ID will do, as long as the owner of the school ID isn't a minor, because the SIM Registration Act does not allow minors to register. They're only allowed to register on behalf of their guardians or their parents, and they can only have that transfer of ownership into their SIM registration by the time they turn 18. So that's really where the problem lies, Mai. It's really the valid government ID that can go into the SIM registration portal. Apart from the fact that if you do have a national ID, then that solves the problem.
Yeah.
But the problem is we don't really have it right now. It's not fully implemented just yet or rolled out.
Yes, aside from these IDs for compliance, are there any other challenges that you've been encountering with the SIM registration process?
It's really the process itself, like what do I do, where do I go? And really that stems from the fact that a lot of our subscribers are prepaid customers and subscribers that really need to go to the portal. The portal is smart.com.ph/simreg. And that's where you input all the data and information that will be asked of you, along with the uploading of one of the government IDs that I have mentioned. And apart from the fact that you also have to take a photo of yourself, a selfie photo, just to verify that it is indeed you who is registering the SIM. So that's where the problem lies. But there's also another section of our subscriber base that are called postpaid. And for postpaid, it's a little bit easier, but they still have to do something. And that would be to text yes to 5858. Why do they have to text yes? The yes allows us at Smart and PNP to use their data and information in our system. Because they're postpaid subscribers, that's what they have to do. When they want to subscribe to our service, they give their data. We have that data, but as long as we do not get their yes or their approval to use their data for the SIM registration process, then they are not registered. That's why they have to text yes.
Okay, but it's easier for postpaid subscribers.
Indeed, And admittedly, if the government can help us improve the simplification of the process for the prepaid subscribers, then that would be great.
Yeah, well, Secretary Uy did say that more than 1 million registrants almost daily. That's the data that they have, and we're hoping more will register in the coming days. Right now, you are at 55% registered SIMs. In what areas is the turnout high, and saan yung mababa yung turnout?
Yes, I wish I could break that down for you, Nomai, but we don't, because when you come to consider it, it's a mobile service. So it wouldn't be representative of how many people have registered in a particular place because they're mobile. So we don't break that down. But if I could break that down for you, the full number that I gave earlier of about over 37 million, 35,398,171 are prepaid customers that have already registered their SIM. And 1,630,717 are postpaid subscribers who have already registered their SIM. So that accounts for the 55.8% of total SIM registrations for all of Smart and PNP. So what about the balance? That's a huge balance. We're talking about at least 44% of subscribers who will get their SIMs deactivated if they fail to register their SIMs in 5 days, because the deadline is still on April 26th.
Okay, I'm taking that.
Imagine 44%, that's going to be a loss of connectivity and also services that they've come to know during the pandemic. You know how we've needed to be online, to stay connected, to pay our bills online. All of those will be disconnected because your SIM
Cathy,
will be deactivated.
So this is your biggest concern if the SIM registration deadline will not be extended. That's 44% of your subscribers who will be deactivated.
Yes, and that really goes against the spirit of financial and social inclusion, because you'd want everybody to be included and not excluded and alienated with the deactivation of their SIM. If you compare it to other countries, we've done a lot of research just to get global best practices. And for instance, in India or Indonesia, the government gave them 1 to 2 years to get their SIMs registered. And these global references already have national IDs in place. And 1 to 2 years would be a better time frame in which to disseminate this education and awareness campaign that we've done in just less than 121 days. So it's really a grand task that all the public telco entities have had to do, which included the rollout of the registration booths and the touch points that we see across the country, because we want to reach out to those people who are in places with not so good connectivity, because you must have good connectivity to register if you're prepaid. Even postpaid, you'd have to text yes to 5858, or you're in places where you have legacy phones. Not everybody is techie, and people are still using 2G or 3G phones that are also SIM enabled, and you have to register that. And there are those who are senior citizens who definitely need help. That's why we've reached out this way with the partnership of government in going to this GIDCA area. Itong tinatawag na geographically isolated and disadvantaged, conflict-afflicted areas, because those are where we want to get the rest of the subscribers registered.
Okay, so we have high hopes that more people will register in the coming
days. And it's not just last minute, Mai, because we're counting down to 5 days. But then, when you look at the data, it kind of confirms that maybe a part of the subscriber population is really doing last minute. But I recommend that they do not be a last minute subscriber in registering, because, the consequences are really huge, and they're a bit of a pain. Because you're going to be disconnected, and if you do, you got to buy a new SIM, then you got to tell friends that you got this new SIM, a new number. It's a whole lot of stuff that you can't avoid.
Well, thank you for your time this morning,
sure,
Cathy.
Thank you, Mai.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
That was PLDT Smart VP and Corporate Communications Group Head, Cathy Yang. We'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Our source today, Junk SIM Registration Network spokesperson, Maded Batara III. Good morning, Maded.
Yes, good morning, Mai.
Okay, let's start with this. You asked the Supreme Court for a TRO on the SIM registration law. Just to be clear, you are against the law itself and not just on the registration deadline?
Yes, we are. Our lawyers and, of course, our petitioners on the network have seen that the SIM registration law presents a grave threat to our freedom of expression and our right against unreasonable searches and seizures. So we're not just against the whole process, but we do believe, and IT experts agree with us on this, that it does pose a grave threat to our constitutional rights.
What is your major concern about the SIM registration law? Because authorities say this can reduce cyber-related crimes, especially scam messages.
We believe that the mandate of the law, the claim good that it has, which actually international studies have stated that SIM registration in other countries does not actually hinder the promulgation of scams and crimes, that it actually poses more of a grave danger to the right of people to protect their phone number, right? To have that, to essentially be able to protect their phone number and only give it to a certain number of people. Now the government is actually posing a choice to us: either give your phone number to us, right? Give your phone number to the telcos and open it up to privacy concerns and leaks, as what we've seen just recently, right, with multiple database leaks that have occurred in the government, or be silenced forever. And especially now that the SIM is essentially the 21st century printing press. It is the gateway for millions of Filipinos to communicate with the people that they care about. That is the decision essentially that the government is facing, is essentially giving people, and that presents a grave danger to the right of people to express freely.
Okay, so it's essentially the threat of personal information leaking, right?
Yes.
Okay, but why file your petition for a TRO only now, when the law has been in effect for quite some time now?
We've actually worked on this petition for a few months now, right? Trying to gather a multi-sectoral coalition of petitioners. And we believe that it is actually the right time now. Many people have raised concerns over privacy and the freedom of speech aspects of the law. And now that the DICT is a bit being steadfast in its pronouncement that it won't extend until at least the talk with the telcos on Monday, we believe that this puts ample pressure on the DICT to actually, change the discourse, right? Actually, instead of saying that these people who haven't registered are lazy or they're just pushing things the last minute, that there actually might be some genuine concerns from the people regarding their right to speech, free speech, and their right to freedom of privacy, and put ample pressure to actually change the conversation towards that. And of course, also the Supreme Court to hear our arguments, hopefully, as early as possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, as of April 18, only over 74 million SIMs out of 168 million have been registered. But the DICT is saying that this number is actually bloated and the number is more close to 100 million SIMs. So, but tell us, what is your next move if the Supreme Court denies your request for a TRO?
Well, first off, the DICT is essentially contradicting the telcos by saying that there are only 100 million active SIMs when, Smart and Globe and Dito are working on that 169 million SIM number. We actually do plan to protest in 2 hours later in front of the DICT headquarters in CPRC Quezon City to present to the DICT why they shouldn't, interrupt the people's access to communication. They are the Department of Information and Communications Technology, and their mandate is to ensure that people have the right to access communication, especially in far-flung areas, right? Dismissing, scaring people into losing their access to communication, right? And forcing that April 26th deadline is far beyond their mandate. I think they're a bit out of touch there. We hope to pressure the DICT in the next few days, especially now with this petition going on, to ensure that they are in touch with the demand of the people and to consider the request of the telcos to extend or even to stop the implementation of the law and hopefully have an earnest conversation about the privacy and free speech aspects of this conversation over the SIM registration law.
All right. Thank you for joining us this morning. Junk SIM Registration Network spokesperson Maded Batara III. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Mai Rodriguez. You're watching CNN Philippines.